don't focus on one thing. It's a common piece of advice to focus on one thing, but this brings up a significant question. What is one thing? In language, one thing is usually defined as something one can remember. So basically a word describes usually something that one can remember. Now, a hand, for example, could be something that one can remember. But now a hand is not really one thing because it consists out of many fingers. And so if one defines, for example, one thing as making music, then there are people who play the piano and there are people who play the guitar. If one defines one thing as being a lawyer, then, well, this is already quite specific. Now, the problem, in a sense, if one focuses on one thing also, is that one has a concentration risk. Now, the question is, of course, if one does not focus on one thing, what does one even do? And the question has been answered to a certain extent now by large language models. It's like, previously, one thing was, for example, let's say being a lawyer, being a scientist, but also being a scientist. It's like, do one thing, study science. But of course you cannot really study science because you have to choose one topic. And the reason is because RAM and ROM of people is just too low to study all of science. And so doing one thing is an illusion. It's an illusion because life demands the solving of tasks. And these tasks are often unexpected. And they're also often, it's not that they are unsolvable, but at any given point in time, there could be tasks that one has never done before. And usually this is the case all the time, at least for me. So of course I have tasks that repeat, but they only repeat until they don't. Workflows are only temporarily and locally stable. And as soon as one variable breaks, a workflow is no longer stable. Example, let's say, I was living in a German city for the last couple of years. And so I had set up a workflow in terms of working out. And so basically this is a routine that I automated more and more and more and more until eventually I moved again. And so the workflow completely broke. And so everything is only stable until it breaks, until one variable changes and then everything breaks. So in the most recent years, I think it became quite obvious that being a generalist in this days and age, one that can basically dive in and out of any given topic, is something one not only maybe optimizes toward, but also has an advantage of if one has it, or if one then... So in the past, it maybe took me a couple of weeks to search for a new tripod on Amazon. I don't know. I took screenshots maybe, and then I compared all of these things. And now, what I can do right now is go on TikTok or Instagram and maybe search for the tripod. And maybe somebody already now has made a video about the tripod, said, okay, this is good, this is bad. And then I can already gather the same information it would otherwise have took me maybe weeks, or if I would have had to purchase these products myself and then compare them at home and then realize, okay, this is trash, I need to send this back, but then I cannot send it back, etc. And so all of these things, I think, are beginning to come. So basically the idea generation rate worldwide, I think, is going, it's not that the idea generation rate per se is going through the roof, but maybe also as a secondary effect, but more that the distribution of ideas is becoming easier and easier and easier. So the threshold for distribution with especially vertical video is becoming easier and easier and easier. What this, I think, means is that the idea turnover is increasing. The question is at which rate, but to a certain extent it also doesn't matter. What one I think can say right now is that it is increasing rapidly. And so if it is increasing rapidly, then it's like a deep dive into a topic right now is only kind of 2 hours of TikTok away. And of course now there is also lots of trash in TikTok. Of course, one has to constantly keep in mind that TikTok is kind of one of the most aggressive softwares in the world that constantly tries to manipulate oneself, etc. But this is, I think, so ridiculous now because everything is becoming so fast. I can, in a day, for example, have, I don't know, 50, 100 video ideas, and then I post the idea, and then already people might see the idea like 30 seconds after. This is so ridiculous. It's just a completely new age. And of course, this was already possible a couple of years ago, but it was not possible for me. And so my thinking is kind of changing around this, and also with prompting, obviously. It's like all the different categories of life are inherently connected because, well, they are all me. And so if I, for example, sleep 10% worse, then of course I perform also 10%. Of course it's not linear, the correlation is not linear, but it's like if my workout sucks, probably my sleep sucks. And it goes on and on like this. It's like a dream, basically. A dream is made up out of all the different elements from the days before one can remember, and maybe something from like 10 years ago that was weighted with a different weight compared to the thing like yesterday. And so as idea turnover increases, as the rate at which business are created increase, the rate at which papers are written increases like drastically. It's like all of it is, I don't want to say it's exponential right now, but it's going faster and faster and faster. And so it's like already 1 or 2 years ago, there were rumors that basically some large language models already had tested in IQ tests, and usually, so there is a site called tracking.ai or something like this, and on this site, researchers test large language models locally with IQ tests. And so these are not like official IQ tests, but these are run locally with these large language models. And they already came out sometimes as like 140, 150 or something like that. And so that's already smarter than like 99.9% of the population. And of course now we still have bodies, but I mean, Tesla is working on Tesla bots, and it's like only 5 years ago it was like humanoid robots was like this thing in the future, maybe like 30 years away, or maybe like 200 years away, nobody could guess. But now it's becoming a reality. Of course now Elon Musk faked this thing, and the Tesla bots in the, I actually don't know what I think there is already a Tesla bot 2 or something like this out, and of course then there are also different companies. Can't remember, Figure is one, and there is another one. And so it's like, what is not gonna be replaced in the next couple of years? Basically, probably being an entrepreneur is not going to be replaced, because someone still has to carry the risk. So as soon or as long as AI cannot be a business entity, humans still hold the rights. So basically maybe the only thing then we eventually can do is own things. And so if one doesn't own things, or IP or anything, then of course this is not very advantageous. So in the race that's kind of going on, it's not really a race, because well, it's not that the pie is now distributed. That the pie, it's more like that the pie is growing right now at a ridiculous rate, probably already, maybe not so much in terms of GDP. That's also like a big, it's like, okay, AI here, AI there, and then where is the global GDP growth? It's like, where is all the economic value of large language models? Currently maybe not there, but that's in a sense just a normal hype cycle. There is this Gartner hype cycle, which basically goes like this. In the beginning, there's new technology, everybody thinks, oh, the future is going to be so great. Then of course, it's just the normal mirrored dopamine cycle. In order to begin something, one needs to be incredibly naive about how ridiculously difficult it actually is. So it's kind of a trick the mind plays. Oh, look like this. It's going to be over in like 2 minutes. And then it turns out it's like 20 years. And so then basically the hype dies, a little bit at least, and then there's the valley of delusion or something like this. And then eventually, as people are still believing in the idea and working on it and putting work into the idea and overcoming the different challenges, then eventually products are beginning to be developed, and then they pick up. Like only like half a year ago, or three quarters of a year ago, there was like looks maxing was like beginning to become a trend online. And now, for the first time in years, there are apps where you can basically rate attractiveness and so on. So basically, it took a couple of months only with AI now it's like how the rate at which apps are developed. It's like Ascension as a name was not a thing like a year ago, at least not known to me. Not known to me also a half year ago. And now there are like, I don't know how many different apps that are just called Ascend. And so all of these apps